In this episode, Harshaneeyam speaks to writer Jeyamohan on the eve of his Aram Stories getting translated into Telugu. The book is titled Nemmi Neelam and translated by Bhaskar Avineni. Chaaya Resources is the publisher. Bhaskar Avineni is an acclaimed translator from Tamil to Telugu, and it is his second publication. Aram Stories was translated into English as Stories of the True by Priyamvada Ramkumar, shortlisted for the ALTA Prize in 2023. Writer Jeyamohan is highly regarded as one of the most creative and prolific writers from India. He writes mostly in Tamil and also in Malayalam. His output includes 9 novels, 10 volumes of short stories, plays, 13 literary criticisms, 5 biographies of writers, 6 introductions to Indian and Western literature, 3 volumes on Hindu and Christian philosophy, and numerous other translations and collections. He has also written scripts for Malayalam and Tamil movies. His writing is heavily influenced by the works of humanitarian thinkers Leo Tolstoy and Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Drawing on the strength of his life experiences and extensive travel around India, Jeyamohan re-examines and interprets the essence of India's rich literary and classical traditions.
You were raised in Kanyakumari district, and when you were growing up in Kanyakumari district, what was the social environment like?
Some Indian writers have a very peculiar advantage because we have some border areas in our culture. For example, Hosur is a border area with Bangalore. Nellore is a border area with Telugu. And Kanyakumari district is a border area with Kerala. So, by birth I am a Malayali. My mother tongue is Malayalam. But the language of this area is actually Tamil. Because in older days, the official language of Trangur Samasthan is Tamil, classical Tamil. So my father and mother are actually Tamil scholars. But my mother tongue is Malayalam. My father worked in a sub-registrar office. He was an expert in ancient Tamil and ancient Malayalam, which is a language before Malayalam. So he used to give testimonies on some civil cases regarding these documents of old kingdom. So he is an expert in Sanskrit, Tamil, and ancient Malayalam and modern Malayalam. So I born and brought up in a bilingual culture. So it's a very big advantage for me. Because I used to talk Malayalam in my home and Malayalam and Tamil outside my home. So I learned Tamil in my school and I learned Malayalam from my mother and I began to read a lot in Malayalam. And very early age, I started to read a lot in Tamil and Malayalam and a little bit in English because Kanyakumari district has another cultural background because missionary activity started at very early age here. So we have a big Christian culture here, particularly Anglican Christian culture. So there was a very good library near my home, which is YMCA library, still there. It is Mulkod YMCA library. I used to read a lot in English at that time. But I never speak an English word in my life till my age of 22. I only read it because I have a reading culture, but there is no compulsion to talk in English. So even today, I cannot talk English, but I can write and think in English. That's my problem. So I am a creation of these 3 cultures, this Malayalam, Tamil, and the Anglican European culture. So I used to read a lot in more 3 languages. My mother was a good reader in Tamil, English, and Malayalam. She used to write stories in Malayalam and Tamil at the age of 22. So that's the cultural scenario in Kanyakumari district. It's a good advantage because and another thing is, Tamil Nadu is occupied by Telugu culture for more than 250 years and a very big Telugu influence all over Tamil Nadu, except Kanyakumari district. Kanyakumari district is actually independent for more than 300 years. They are rulers under the yoke of Nayaka kingdom, but still they are independent. So the ancient Tamil culture is still survived in Kanyakumari district. Particularly, you can see a lot of traits of ancient Sangha literature and Sangha period culture in Kanyakumari district. So I have a lot of advantages in writing this. And another thing is, it's a very fertile district. It has 2 rainy seasons, and it is just a Kerala style, Kerala pattern of landscapes. So this area is a very exotic area for all Tamil people. They used to come here. They used to visit these places. There are a lot of hill stations here in Kanyakumari district. So entire Tamil Nadu has a kind of obsession with Kanyakumari district. And another thing is, we have a very rich literary and cultural tradition here. In modern literature, Sundar Ramasamy, Kavimani Desiga Vinayagam Pillai, and Topal Mohan, Nanjil Nadan, a lot of writers born here, and they wrote about Kanyakumari district. And another interesting thing is, though this is a very small district, we have 3 distinct landscapes here in this area. One is hillside, another one is seashore, and another one is paddy fields near at Nanjil Nadu. So we have 3 nodes. Nadu means areas. One is Venadu, belongs to my place. I belong to Venadu. Venadu is a hill station, hilly area, rubber plantation and all that. And another area is seashore. Topal Muhammad Mira wrote about that seashore area. And another one is Nanjil Nadu. It has paddy fields and culture like Tanjore. And Nanjil Nadu wrote about that. Yeah, 3 writers writing entirely different 3 landscapes within this area. So these are the advantages I have. I will claim myself as the bard of Kanyakumari district. I never write about other areas. I always write about Kanyakumari district. This is my land, and you cannot plant a rubber tree in any other place of Tamil Nadu. You cannot plant a particular banana trees in any other plot of Tamil Nadu. Particularly, we have a particular banana. It's called matti. That will be grown only in Kanyakumari district. So writers are like that. We have very, very strong root in Kanyakumari district. We cannot sprout out in any other area of Tamil Nadu.
You are also, as a student, you are also very active politically.
I am political, but I don't believe any of the political ideologies prevailing in this state today. I am deadly against this Hindutva politics, and I am deadly against the Dravidian politics ruling in Tamil Nadu. One is religious fanaticism, and another is linguistic fanaticism or racial fanaticism. So I cannot cope up with these people. My political idea is, I used to refer it as micro politics. That means I am a follower of Gandhi, but not Congress. I am a follower of independent Gandhians who work in micro units of society, doing some ground level political works. I am also always a strong activist in this area. I used to promote micro political activities, all kinds of micro political activities, particularly social works, environmental activities, and works with tribal people. So I have a lot of friends. I am associated with a lot of micro political associations and organizations. And actually, I am running 1 or 2 small scale organizations in this area. That is my politics. So for example, recently we started a campaign in rural areas of Europe to propagate the idea that people should not accept bribe for voting. We organized students to propagate that idea with the rural public, and we got promises from them. We adopted 3 villages, and we are very successful in that. So we are going to celebrate that success on 21 July. So I'm believing in this kind of activities. It is my politics. I don't belong to any of the political parties. I'm actually against any of these power-hungry political parties. So I used to say very strong opinions about these politics. These general politics, this power politics, actually based on caste and on other kind of fanaticisms. So I used to say very strong ideas, actually very, very strong ideas, and they won't leave me alone because I'm an individual. I have no party. I have no other institution to support me, So they used to propagate hate speech against me. They used to propagate slandering and all that. You can see a lot of slandering in the internet against me. All political parties brands me that I belong to their opposite side. You can see the Hindutwas brand me as a crypto-Christian and a supporter of Muslims and the crypto-communist on that. And the Dravidian parties and communists label me as Hindutva. So I used to ask, you both sit and discuss and decide who I am.
At one point of time in your life, you attempted suicide.
I have to say something about the family system prevailed in this area. It is called matriarchal system. Till 1953, matriarchal system was very, very popular in this area. So my family belongs to that custom, So my father born and brought up in matriarchal system, and he got a government job, and he decided to set a patriarchal system in his family. So he married my mother, and actually he enslaved my mother. He took her to his home, and throughout his life, he behaved like a strong patriarch. And my mother, born and brought up in a matriarchal society, she has an independent thought. She is a very well-read person. She was a scholar in various areas. So they had a very strained relationship throughout their life. So I was witnessing their relationship, and I was depressed to see these family feuds in my family. And then I left my home at the age of 19, and I came back. I was a beggar in Tiruvannamalai, Palani, Kashi, and Uttarakashi, and Haridwar. And my close friend, Radha Krishna, he committed suicide. So it gave me a hyper depression, and I was disturbed to my core. So again I left as a beggar, as a mendicant. I won't say it's a spiritual quest. I was a hyper depressed person at that time. And I think now that I had some kind of psychological problems at that time, because some areas are actually entirely blacked out from my memory. I cannot remember some places. And I can some strange dreams in my life. But on the dream, I can see some places which are actually deleted by my consciousness. So I came to I returned to Kerala, and I got a job there. It's a very small job. At that time, suddenly my mother and then my father committed suicide. In 1986, I was 24 at that time. So I traveled in a very dark area at that time. depressions and illusions. I used to see the footprints of my mother in my room. I used to see some kind of shadows, and even sometimes I saw her before me. And sometimes I can hear her voice. Even I am walking in a busy street, I could hear her voice. So all these are some starting problem of schizophrenia maybe. But that drove me to hyper depression, and then I decided to commit suicide. I thought it is the only way to escape from that miserable period. So I walked all the way to a place called Kamba, which is very close to Mangalore. I was working at Kasaragod, North Kerala at that time. I want to commit suicide, and I walked to Kumbala to commit suicide. Actually, I planned to place my head on the rail track. Then on the way, I saw a small worm in a leaf. It was glowing like a diamond. And it was a vision to me. Suddenly, I heard a shuddering in my body. And something happened in my spine. And I heard a kind of light inside my brain. All I am saying is a kind of physical expressions, but actually it was physical. And I used to express it in words later like this. That I felt that small worm is glowing like a diamond. And a human being like me is immersing on darkness and darkness. There is no meaning in it. Throughout the day, a single word traveled in my brain. I can say it in Malayalam. Because that word was in Malayalam. Nirarthada. I think the same word is in Telugu also. Nirarthada. Meaninglessness. It is a Sanskrit word. So throughout the day, the single word haunted me. Nirarthada, nirarthada. Meaningless, meaningless. Because death is meaningless. If death is totally meaningless, what is meaningful? I can say this like this. Life has no meaning. Life has no inbuilt meaning, but you can make it meaningful. You should make it meaningful. So I decided to be happy at that time. At the age of 25, I ordered me to be happy. So throughout my life, this nearly 40 years now, on the 40 years, almost every day, I was happy. Till now, I am happy. Every day, I plan my day. This is what to do this day. So I found happiness in my writing, traveling, and being with my friends. So throughout the month, throughout the year, I am like this. I used to write, travel, and read, and be with friends and family. So I used to say myself, if you want to see a person who spent his life almost every day in absolute happiness, it is me. I am an apostle of happiness. So I used to say my friends that I came from the sheer darkness of life. So I know the worth of life. I know the weight of depression. That's why I always very, very positive and very, very hopeful about life. Still now, like that. Even every day, I found something to laugh on every day. Say, today morning, I read a news. A lawyer at Kanyama district, he is running a prostitution center. The police raided his institution and arrest 3 women. He filed a writ on Madurai High Court saying, I am a lawyer, so I need a protection for my institution. And, and the High Court judge is infuriated. Actually, he says, oh, how can a lawyer claim that he is a lawyer? That's why he should be allowed to run a prostitution outfit. It's a sheer nonsense. And this person is coming from a district where all people are educated. The court says this kind of nonsense is coming from a state where education is the major phenomenon. The news made my day. I laughed. And I said, I mailed this message to my friend Krishna. He is a lawyer. And I said, only an educated person can claim like this. Not an uneducated person will never claim it. See, educated person always have some kind of crookedness and some kind of eccentricity. That's quite natural. This claim will not come anywhere from Tamil Nadu. So I used to find material to laugh almost every day, every morning.
You went around the country like a sannyasi. Can you recall any notable experience from that journey?
Yeah, I wrote a book called named Purapadu. Purapadu is starting. Purapadu. Actually, it is now translated in English and going to be published within months. Now, my friend Viswanathan is translating that work. It's a very popular work here. It is about the experiences of the first part of my travel. And about the second part of the travel, another set of experiences are there. But on the second part, I have some kind of psychological problems. I cannot write something because every time I started to write, I feel some block there. And some mystical or mysterious experiences are there. They are not rational. I don't think I can explain it very, very clearly. But the first thing is, I started my travel at the age of 19 from Nagargoil. And I traveled all the way to Tiruvannamalai. Tiruvannamalai is a place for sannyasis and beggars. It's a Saiva place. Sannyasis from all over India used to visit Tiruvannamalai. Actually, they used to visit only place in Tamil Nadu, which is Tiruvannamalai. Tiruvannamalai is a Saiva place, belongs to ancient Kalamugas. Kalamuga means Saiva occultist system. So sannyasis only came there. So I visited Tiruvannamalai. I narrated that incident in one of my novels. The first experience of begging. I was extremely hungry. I have no money with me. So I was traveling, I was walking in a road. So I decided to beg. So because I am a sannyasi, I have to beg. So I don't know how to beg. So then I saw a woman. She looks exactly like my mother. So I approached her and I said, "Mother, I am hungry." And immediately she returned and asked me, So that was a big question. So the difference, the entire world is actually with this expression. So you are dying. So Gaza is burning. So Ukraine is ruined. So there's a child in my neighborhood dying out of hunger. So that's so. It's a mantra. Actually, I ran away from that word. I was in bitter mindset, and I was afraid about that word. So sometimes some words are like arrows piercing into our heart, and it will be there like a drop of poison in our soul. So that's the question. After 3 days, one sannyasi, he was a leprosy patient also. You can see him in the novel Abyss. He came to me and he asked me, he identified me as a Malayali immediately. I never said any word, but from my face, he know every place in India. He asked me, Malayali Sami, do you have food? I said no. And immediately he gave me 4 idlis, and I had that food. And I was with him for some time. I never begged. He used to beg and bring food for me too. So I was a beggar throughout India, but 1 or 2 or 3 times I begged to the strangers. All other period, some sannyasi will give me food. Somebody will give me food. So I found one thing, that there is a strange phenomenon in India. One thing is, we are indifferent to the sorrows of other people. But no sannyasi is let die out of hunger. Once a sannyasi told me, in this India, in this land, a worker may die out of hunger. A peasant may die out of hunger. Not a sannyasi, not a beggar. They will give food. There's no history that a beggar died out of hunger. Even in this period of great famines in 17th and 18th centuries, there was great famines in India. Millions of people died out of hunger, but not beggars. Because we have a value system that a household person should give something to a sannyasi or a beggar. Particularly women, they used to give food. So I was a beggar for more than 2 years. 2 years. But throughout the 2 years, I was very comfortable and secure. I lived a happy life at that time.
Other recurring theme, you keep mentioning about your spiritual guru, Nitya Chaitanya Yeti.
So I had a spiritual quest in my life. I traveled all over India with that spiritual quest. I met a lot of persons with this kind of spiritual quest in my life. And that's the theme of Vishnu Puran, my magnum opus novel. It narrates the life of various persons throughout the history in the quest of spiritual liberation, and the pretensions and the failures and successes in the area. That's the theme of Vishnu. So I personally have that quest till now. So I met a lot of sannyasis. I had talks with really great people at that time. But I never met my personal guru. I practiced some serious yoga and meditation methods at that time. Once I was in the verge of death after practicing some kind of mysterious yoga practice. So I wrote a story about it. I practiced a particular yoga and I had blood in my urine. I cannot stand. And actually I ran away from that beach. I cannot withstand it. So after that I lost faith on this kind of spiritual things and this kind of gurus. On 1992, my friend Baba Chellature, He's a writer also. He's a very popular writer in Tamil. He took me to meet Yogi Ram Kumar. He was at Tiruvannamalai. Actually, I know him very well. When I was a beggar in Tiruvannamalai, Yogi Ram Kumar was also a beggar there. He was not popular at that time. So we went to meet him. He greeted us and we sat near to him. And I was asking very, very irritating questions. Actually, I tried to tease him. I tried to ridicule him because I had a deep hatred or bitterness in my mind at that time. But he treated me with fatherly love and with some element of fun. And I asked him one question. Is there any chance that I can have my own guru? Is there a guru for me? He said, well, you will meet eventually. You will meet. After 6 months, my close friend Nirmalia Mani, he's a translator and the winner of Sahitya Academy Award for Translation. He asked me to visit Nitya Chaitanya. But I said I am not interested. I am bored with these sannyasis and swamijis. I won't come. And again Mani compelled me. And actually he practically cheated me. He asked me to visit his relative somewhere. So I went with him. But he took me to the Gurukula. And when I entered into the Gurukula, Ooty, this infant Ooty, Guru Nitya was starting for his morning walk. He was 20 feet away. He was starting for his walking. Few Europeans were with him. I saw him from at this distance and I felt that he is my guru. Immediately I surrendered before him because he was 70 years old at that time. But his face was like a child. His eyes were like the eyes of a 6-year-old boy. Innocence, curiosity, brilliance, and everything. And I went before him. I touched his feet and said, I am Jeyamohan, I am your student. And he took me with his morning walk. So I was wondering why I surrendered before this man. And there was a discussion going on between him and some Europeans. Guru Nitya was actually talking about Freudism. He said, Freud imagined the human mind as a tiffin carrier. I began to laugh at that expression. I know that he was a psychiatrist and psychologist. He got a PhD in psychology. So he was talking about the limitations of Freud. And he referred Jacques Lacan, Carl Jung, and Adler, and all major psychologists of his time. And he has severe criticisms on that. He said the Indian way of psychological approach, Indian psychological approach is entirely different. And Freud imagined the human mind as 3 layers. But we already imagine this as 4 layers. Jagrat, Sopna, Sushupti and Turiya. So what is Turiya? Turiya is sea. Surya is the ocean. And all other things are waves, drops and droplets. Actually there is only ocean. It's a very different thing. And suddenly another thing happened. Nitya said, for example, take a common man. Immediately one of his students said, Guru, I am here. I began to laugh. So two things I observed. One thing is, my Guru is a person who have a deep knowledge in literature and modern science and modern thoughts. And second thing, my Guru should be a humorous person. He should be playful. He should not be a ritualistic person or a person with serious mood. I want to laugh. That's the reason I accepted him as my Guru. He was laughing. Throughout his life, he was laughing. Every class of Nitya is actually was bustling with laughter. There's a popular anecdote about his Guru, Nataraja Guru. Once Nataraja Guru was walking in the Gurukula, and he saw some set of students are sitting under a tree and discuss something seriously. One among them is Nitya Guru. Nataraja Guru came and asked, "What are you discussing about?" And Nitya said, "Guru, we are discussing about Karl Jaspers. We are discussing about existentialism." So Nataraja Guru said, "So you are discussing philosophy without laughing?" Nonsense. He returned it. So we cannot discuss philosophy with high-level irony. Yeah, philosophy can be discussed only through poetry and irony. If there is no laughter and poetry, this is not philosophy. It is silly logical. That's why I accepted Nitya as my Guru.
Especially in Aram Stories, you keep mentioning about the great Tamil writers.
In modern period, in modernistic period, to be precise, the writer become the hero of a great work. Writers are celebrated, and they consider that they are the best examples of the society. So they used to write about themselves. So even the more major writings of that period, that modernistic periods, are some kind of diary notes. They are some kind of personal notes. Expressing a writer's inner self was considered as the best way of literature. The modernist writing is very personal. I began to read at that period. So I had that idea with me. So modern writer, a modernist writer, he used to say, me, myself, my. Continuously, his writing has these words. Actually, he was talking about himself. Just go and look into your major Telugu writers of that period. They are very egoistic. They are very self-centric. They used to talk about themselves only. All of their creative writings are personal anecdotes and personal notes. But I belong to the next period. On postmodern period, writers like me lost interest in personal anecdotes and personal notes. So I had an idea that individual is not an existence, it's an idea. It's a postmodern thought, but not only postmodern. Even in Vedic tradition, individual is an assumption made by that person. It's not a reality. So if a writer says, I am like this is my personality, I am an individual, it means that he wants to define himself like this. It's a simple definition. He defines himself in a particular scenario, in a particular historical junction, in a particular discourse, he is defining like this. So I lost interest in the kind of individual narrations. Then the question arises, so what is the role of a writer in literature? What's the role of a writer in history? Why should he write? Then there was an answer. In olden days, a writer was writing only about life of others, life of heroes, and life of heroic moments, life of great moments. So I consider myself as a bard. The bard. A bard is here to sing about the heroes. That idea liberated me from the silly ego of a writer. That idea. Actually, it helped me to see others. So there are a lot of great people here. They are doing great services to humanity. There are great artists are there. But you are remembering only silly writers for 100 years. You forget to be a great social worker within 150 years. But you always remember a simple story written by a writer for 100 years. That's not right. The work of a writer is to install great persons in history. That's why I wrote Aram Stories. After that, I began to write a lot about writers and great personalities. So, see, I am not writing about writers, but I am writing about personalities. If the writer is a great personality, I used to write about him. I don't want to write about the failures of human beings. It's very common, it's always there. There are drunkards all over here. So why should you write about a writer who is a drunkard? But a writer who succeeds in his life, who refuses to succumb his pain, is a miracle. Here we have to write about it. That's why I am writing about Komal Swaminathan. I know him and I saw his pain and I felt the power inside him which took him to Kailash. So I want to write that value. So I'm writing about persons who express some kind of values through their life, either writers or not writers. So see, few days back, this story, Chotu Kanak, Meal Tally, is published in Malayalam, few days back only. And there was a overwhelming support from Kerala for that story. And I'm getting continuous calls. Even now, my cell phone is ringing again and again and again. It's a reader's response. It's a overwhelming response. But that response is not for me. I am a bard. I wrote about a value system expressed by Ketel Sahi. I installed it in history. I expressed it in language. That's why people are accepting me as a writer. Kamban wrote about Raman, not about himself. So, I used to write about persons.
Now, Aram, of course, is coming in the name of Nemmi Neelam in Telugu. My friend Bhaskar has beautifully translated it. Coming to those stories, I gather that you wrote all these 12 stories when you are in a very, very agitated state.
I already told you that how I came from the abyss of darkness at the age of 24 and started to live a life, and how I became a writer. Yes, I wrote a lot about human darkness and the penury of human beings. I am the person who wrote a lot about the darkness of life in Tamil. No other writer in Tamil wrote a lot like me about the darkness of life, because I personally witnessed art. Today, a modern writer who born and brought up in a middle class life had very little experience. So he cannot write a lot about the underworld or beggar's world. But I know everything, so I wrote a lot. But still, I'm a poet of life. I'm a bard of great people. So I used to narrate the light inside every darkness. But at the age of 50, I had a spiritual crisis. Because, at that time, a lot of corruption issues emerged in the Indian political scenario. And continuously there was a big talk about the fall of values. And a lot of things happened at that time. Reading newspapers was a kind of torture at that time. Every news at that time make you tremble. You lose your faith on humanity and goodness. At that time, continuously I was trying to regain my faith and idealism. I know a lot of real persons at that time. I have very good teachers in my personal life. But till I began to lose my idealism. So if I have lost my idealism, simultaneously I will lose my spirituality also. So then I will be a cynic, like silly modern writers. Generally, all modern writers are cynics and negative persons. I don't want to be one like that. I hate to be identified like that. I personally feel that I'm a writer almost par with Tolstoy. So I don't want to be identified as a Kafka. To me, Kafka is a silly writer, a small-time writer. Camus is a very small writer. I don't want to be a Camus or Kafka. I want to be a Tolstoy or Sivaramakaram or Kamba. So, in that period, suddenly one day, I had a memory about a writer in Tamil, Nemmi Neelam. He told me about his personal experience with a publisher. It was a small anecdote. I came to know that that same anecdote was already written by T. Janagiraman 25 years back, but he wrote it in a very simple way. So I began to write that story. I completed it within 3 hours continuously. Aram is the first story. After completing the story, immediately I found my faculties are broken and became free. So I found the answer that I can never find an answer for my questions in history or philosophy. I can find my answers only in persons, individuals. And I can identify and I can find the persons only through my writing. At the age of 30, I asked my Guru Nitya to teach me yoga and dhyana. He said, you already had a great way to meditate. Literature is the way to meditate life. You are blessed. Why should you need to practice yoga? Yoga is an entirely different thing. You cannot practice yoga. You have the power of imagination. You can be a Vyasa. Then we are trying to be inferior rishis. So that was the answer. My way of meditation, my way of truth finding is literature. So I said to myself, I have to write. I went down to the kitchen. I made a coffee, drank it, and came back to my computer and started the next story. Immediately. Within 12 days, I completed 12 stories, and all the stories are published immediately in my site. And nearly 1 lakh people used to read it every day. Almost all celebrities in Tamil Nadu referred that something happened in literature. Actually, one English magazine published a small news about it. Lightning strikes every day. That was the title I remember. That's a 12 short stories. And the Aram short stories are the most popular short stories in Tamil literature. Even now, Aram is the number one selling creative literature in Tamil Nadu. And Aram stories are the bestsellers in Malayalam. Some 100 armchairs and Elephant Doctor sold more than 2 or 3 lakhs in Malayalam. So, and English. In English, Stories of the True is the bestseller in English translated fiction for 22 and 23 and 24. Now it is going to be published in USA. And US publisher signed me, and very soon it will be appear in USA also. So the Aram stories has a formula. I mean, I never worked a formula, but naturally it emerged. The first thing, all of my other stories are a little bit intellectual. Common folk cannot read all of my stories. Many stories have some hidden layers, one or multi-layer stories, not so simple stories. But Aram stories are very simple in language and structure. The number 2 is Aram stories can be narrated in any form. You can tell the story to another one. Even now, when I visit my friend's home, some small children used to come to me, and they asked me, "Can I tell you a story?" Then, okay, tell me. And the child began to tell the story of Elephant Doctor. Nearly more than 50 or 60 children narrated Elephant Doctor to me. Even 1 or 2 weeks back, I used to run our friend's home. His child is only 6 years old. He came to me and asked me, "Can I tell you a very interesting story?" I said, "Come and tell me." He started. Once there was an elephant doctor in the deep forest. He started the story, and I was really excited. So easily you can create a folk version out of these classical stories. That's the second nature of the Aram stories. And the third thing is, Aram stories are mostly visual. So you can see the place, you can see the persons. So I want people to see the personage. You have to see, you have to witness, you have to be with Elephant Doctor. It's not about tell a story about Elephant Doctor, but you have to be with him in top sleep. Of course, these stories are multi-layered. A good literary reader can easily go into the others on the deeper sides of the story. For example, Elephant Doctor is a text for study in 9th class in Tamil Nadu. In Malayalam also, in 9th class, Elephant Doctor is in textbook. So small children are reading the stories. So this story for them, but a serious literary reader can can read the allegory in that story. The allegory of the worm and elephant. Actually, the small worm is eating the elephant. Actually, the small worm, the predator of the elephant. So the forest is balanced by this, the worm and elephant. The worm is a child. There is no senses except mouth and hunger. But it is actually the predator of an elephant. The entire elephant doctor story is rich with a lot of basic metaphors. The worm, the wild dogs, and a lot of metaphors are there. So, a good reader can read more in their stories. Even in every story, a good literary reader can read at least 2 or 3 hidden stories in the story. But a basic reader can get a single, simple, powerful, emotional version out of it. That's the formula of Aram Stories. Few years later, at 2021, after 10 years, when COVID infection started, the entire world was plunging into depression and sorrow, and a lot of predictions are there. There will be no industry anymore. Actually, I was working in film industry, and somebody said there will not be film industry anymore. The predictions are there. But I wrote 136 short stories. I wrote every day a short story. 136 short stories. All these short stories are, I would say that almost every short story is a literary piece, major literary piece. A lot of stories are now translated into English and going to be published very soon. Malayalam also, there is a collection of short stories appeared in Malayalam. But almost every story is filled with hope, fun, and beauty of life, and poetry of life. Absolutely no negativeness in 136 short stories. Absolutely no negativeness. Not artificial hope. Not artificial ideology of hope. They are naturally hopeful. They are naturally celebrating the element of life. So, what I earned from Aram Stories is this happiness, this hope. So, I expressed that hope I earned through Aram Stories in these 136 short stories.
So, the same infant doctor story, sir, you talk about how we are treating the environment as human beings. And the story takes place in, which is a real story, it takes place in Western Ghats, which is the most biologically diverse area in the whole world. So, what is the current situation? In fact, you recently wrote a piece on one of the recent films that has come about and how we are treating the environment. What is the current state of affairs in Western Ghats?
Western Ghats is the second most biodiverse place in the earth. First is Amazon. My consciousness about Western Ghats started at the age of 24 when Sugata Kumari started a campaign against the Idiki Dam and the Silent Valley protest. So I was with her at that time. And there was a very powerful little magazine at that time called Suji Movie. It was published from Kasaragod. I met the publisher. He was a early environmental activist. At that time, environmentalism was considered as a pseudo-intellectual activity. no public bothered about it. Only few intellectuals here and there talked about environmentalism. Then I came to Tamil Nadu. I came to Dharmaburi. I introduced with Dr. Jeyamohan. He was one of the earlier environmentalists in Tamil Nadu. I dedicated my book about Gandhi to Dr. Jiva. Jiva was a lone prisoner at that time for environmentalists. And I associated with him. And I wrote a lot of pamphlets for Dr. Jiva. Dr. Jiva used to print the pamphlets with his own money, and he used to distribute it at Tirupur and the surrounding areas. But over the past 30 years, environmentalism became a major concern among common public in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Karnataka. I don't know about Andhra. I think the environmentalism is not so strong in Andhra. In North India, still it is a budding idea. Even though the great personalities like Medha Bhatkar and Sundar Lal Bahuguna are there. But still in North India, the common public cannot understand environmental ideas. But not in Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Karnataka. Here the consciousness is very strong. So for the past 20 years, the environmental idea is accepted by forest officials and even by encroachers of the forest. So you can see the result in the Western Ghats. The number of elephants increased tremendously. The number of cheetahs increased tremendously. And you can see wild elements everywhere in the forest because poaching is almost stopped. Deforestation is almost stopped. Even the IFS officers, newly recruited IFS officers, are actually very, very bold, and they are seriously concerned about environmental issues. They won't compromise with it. And even politicians are very careful. Actually, journalists are very, very particular about it. If you are a little bit corrupt, immediately you will be appearing in a major newspaper. There are a lot of journalists, actually they are environmental activists in their personal life. So a constant vigilance is here to protect the Western Ghats. So I think the Western Ghats are being protected now. And the major problem in this is tourism now. So now in Tamil Nadu and Kerala and Karnataka, there is a economic growth. People are buying vehicles. So they want to go to hill areas and they want to celebrate. Actually, it is a good thing because they came to know about forest and they are enjoying the natural environments, all that. But they don't know how to behave. So they are littering into the forest. They are breaking bottles and they are throwing away plastic waste in the forest. So this pollution is the major issue now, not poaching or deforestation, but the polluting the forest is the major issue now. But constantly we are creating a awareness about it. Particularly this elephant doctor story created a big awareness in this fact because it is published as free pamphlets. The single story is circulated among students and the travelers as free pamphlets, more than 3 to 4 lakh prints. Myself printed nearly 2 lakhs copies and distributed among people. And even in Kerala, a lot of environmental groups are publishing the story. The story has no copyright, The elephant doctor has no copyright. Anybody can publish. So those stories creating a awareness about the pollution. And still we have to go a long way. And about this discussion about the issue of Manual boys. Yes, I made a very, very strong remark, and I had a very strong rebuttals and abuses and slandering from all the sides. But actually, in a level, it's a calculated move. I know a particular thing that you associate a thing with a popular movie, it will go to the common people. See, elephant hunting is already popular, but the low-level person who used to travel forest with bottles, they never read anything. But they will listen the discussion of a film. So I expressed very strongly that this is a kind of madness, it's a kind of looting of forest. So almost every media in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, published the news. Almost every person knew about the thing. See, in Kerala, elephant actor story was republished after that discussion by more than 20 publishers. For 2 weeks in Kerala, everybody was scolding me that I said something very strong about Malayalis. But after 2 weeks, almost every Malayali used to say that, yes, he was right. He was saying that. Anyway, he's a writer. He has a right to say that. Now they are celebrating Chotukanaki. Everywhere they are celebrating Chotukanaki. And everybody is saying me, sir, what you are saying is correct. In many places in Kerala, common public is actually protesting against the drunkards now. Common public, simple common public, villages. 1 or 2 days back, one friend of my friend said, they are visiting somewhere in Kerala, in a small village. A group of villagers stopped the car and they checked the vehicle. And they said, sir, we are very particular about our forest. We won't allow any plastic materials or liquor inside the forest. Yes, we have no authority. But we used to check. And he said, what will you do if I am not obeying you? And immediately one of them said, we will break your head, sir. You will be admitted in the hospital. We will take care of the police case collectively. So that's the awareness created by me, I know. So I used to say, he scolded me, you abuse me, anything you can do. So I am here to deceive all that. A writer will not be ruined by abuses or slander. Writer is living by his creative arts. So nobody remembers Manual Boys today. Who will watch Manual Boys within now? It's over. One of my publishers said, sir, if you are going to publish the Elephant Doctor next year, we have to give a footnote that about Manual Boys. We have to give a footnote. Nobody knew about Manual Boys. Commercial movie is a peripheral thing. It will not last time. Actually, I wrote 2 articles about Manual Boys. First thing, my expression. It was a very spontaneous expression. The second thing, my justification about my expression. And in it, I explained the arrogance of writer. I argued that a creative writer, a honest writer, has every right to be arrogant. So, one of my readers asked me that they want to translate the 3 articles and they want to include into some curriculum of studying literature. There is a portion in it about polemical writing. For that, the articles are now translated in English, and they will be in the curriculum for the next 25 years. So after 25 years, there will be a short footnote that these articles are written against Manjumal boys. That movie is not available now. Or you can see it in YouTube. So I used to say, while Pudume Pittan was living, Pudume Pittan was a very small person, very, very ordinary person. He worked as a junior in some newspapers, and he lived in poverty. He died out of tuberculosis. Okay. At that time, Satyamurthy was the most popular politician in Tamil. But if you want to publish an article of Pudumpittan about Satyamurthy today, you have to give a footnote. Who is Satyamurthy? Yeah. So, I'll be here for next 100 years. Who will remember politicians or celebrities of this time after 100 years? If after 100 years, if an article of my article is published there, M. Karnadi will be a footnote under my article. M.K. Stalin will be a footnote under my article. Rajinikanth, Amitabh Bachchan will be a footnote under my article. I'll be there. Tolstoy is still here. Tsar Nicholas is not remembered. That's history. Creative writer is a person who can live for ages. And every good creative writer knew already that he will live. He is talking to the centuries, not to the contemporary period.
Other very popular story of yours, Nuru Narkadigal, 100 Armchairs in English. One thing is about the story of a officer from civil services who undergoes a lot of caste discrimination, and it's a very heartbreaking story. Other notable important part about that story is you gave lot of historical details about the caste Nayadi, how they were oppressed through the ages, and you quoted studies and all that. What is the backdrop? I think it's also a real incident, but other than that, there is a lot of research also that has gotten into the story.
Yeah, actually, I started the story from a real incident because I know the person, the hero, the person. Actually, he's still living. He's a mentor of me in my difficult periods. He helped me. I wrote some strong article against Indian peacekeeping force when it was invading into Sri Lanka. So immediately some departmental action was against me. And the hero of 100 Armchairs helped me to come up from it. At that time I was very helpless. So I asked him to help me. With his help I came out of the problem. So he is like an elder brother to me. And the research in this story is 2 sources are there. One is Trivandrum historical documents, Trivandrum state manuals written by Diwan Velu Pillai. It's available in the net. Diwan Sadasya Dilagan, Diwan Velu Pillai, Trivandrum state manual. And the second state manual is Diwan G. Naham Ayya, Trivandrum state manual. In both state manuals, there is a detailed narration about Nayadis. And 1 or 2 anthropology studies are there about that Nayadi people. One is about K. Panu. The other source of data about the short story is the history of Narayana Guru movement. Narayana Guru students worked in various areas, and they created a lot of social awareness, and they worked among the Dalits and downtrodden people. And I found some evidences about these works in their works. Particularly one book, Nataraja Guru's biography, autobiography of an absolute. In his biography, he gives a lot of hints about the works done by Narayana Guru movement among tribal people and the downtrodden people. And the third element is I belong to this area. I personally knew a lot of Nayadis in my life. Around 1970s to 1970s and 80s, you can see a lot of Nayadis in Trivandrum. They cannot survive in villages, Nayadis. See, in villages, people used to throw stones on them and they were thrown in there. So the Nayadis, generally, all of them migrated to Trivandrum and Nayatingara, major cities. They used to live there. Because generally, they used to live the slums near the major cities. Even at 80s, we could see a lot of Nayadis on Trivandrum railway station area. So I know them very well. So I wrote about my personal experience.
Peruvali, palm leaf, and churning curd. In these three stories, there are references to Jesus Christ. And you said in one of your interviews, which was published, Christ is a very prominent part of your spirituality. Right? Can you elaborate on that?
I am an Advaiti. I am a disciple of Nitya Chaitanya. I belong to Narayana Guru tradition. And Advaita is not a religion. Advaita is not part of any religion. Advaita is a vision and a philosophic treatise. It's a philosophical standpoint, to be precise. And it is a vision and it has a poetry and darshan inside. So I never worship any god. I never practice any religious rituals. Well, I am not a religious person. In a common man's perspective, I may be referred as an atheist. My brother is thinking that I am an atheist because I never practice any religious activities. So, as an Advaiti, I consider Krishna as a pioneer of Advaitic darshan. So, the Vedanta tradition has a lineage of gurus, great gurus. So, Upanishad gurus, Upanishad rishis, then Badarayana, then Krishna, then Shankara, then Narayana Guru. This is the lineage. So Krishna is an icon for me as a great philosopher and a great icon, great metaphor. The metaphor of Krishna is incomplete without an element of Christ in it. My Krishna is a double-faced sculpture On one side it is Krishna, and on the other side it is Jesus. I will explain this like this. Krishna is not was. Krishna is a great philosopher. He was an epoch maker. He created the new era of India. He is a great seer. And if you can call a human being as a god, definitely he is a god. But he talked to scholars only. He talked to Arjuna, not an ordinary person. He cannot talk to Karna even. He cannot talk to Draupadi. He can never talk to Agalabya. Yeah, great philosopher can only talk to a great student. Right? So, Krishna is like a sharpest sword. It is merciless, shrewd, but is the expression of truth. Truth is always like that. There is no compassion. There is no compromise in it. The Advaitic vision is like sulfuric acid. I used to say that. You cannot use it adding a little bit water on it. You keep it open for some time in a room. Eventually it will become water. That's what's happening to Advaita in India. Everybody is adding water to it, but it is in its absolute sense, it is uncompromising truth. See, Bhaskar is here. You are here. See, if I am telling you that in this great universe, Earth is a dust. And what is your worth? What is the real worth of literature itself? And what is the real worth of this discussion? Absolutely nothing. That's the truth. But we have to compromise with the truth. Then only we can make this interview. Right? So there is a compromising element in it. Krishna is showing the absolute truth, which is terrifying. Christ talked to ordinary people without any intellectual quality. He talked to sinners. He talked to persons under the yoke of life. He talked to persons plunged in sorrow and penury. And his voice was full of compassion and love. So, I want to add the compassion of Christ with Krishna. Then only I can create my own idol to worship. So, Christ is very, very important to me. And I won't shy to say that I am always with Christ. There is a portion of Pintodarum Nidalin Kural, my novel about idealism and ideology. It's a novel about the fall of Soviet Russia. In the last part, Christ is coming as a character. While writing that chapter, actually, I was feeling the presence of Christ inside my room. At that time, I was writing on paper with pen. The whole chapter is filled with tears. I gave that version to my publisher and said, you have to correct the sentences because a lot of tears are there in the text. So I can feel the presence of Krishna. And this is not my version. Similarly, Nitya Chaitanya the adored Krishna and Jesus. In his room, you can see a picture of Jesus always there.
We'll come to the other story, that is Nemmi Neelam, Peacock Blue. It's also a very special story. It talks about a great classical musician defining the true meaning of art. What inspired you to write that story? As a reader, I consider that is probably the best story out of the whole collection. It's a wonderfully, beautifully written story. It's Bhaskar's best work too, in my opinion.
The title of the story is Neck of the Peacock. If you ask a child what is the color of neck of the peacock, he cannot say that. Sometimes it is green, sometimes it is blue, sometimes it is violet. The changing hues. That's the main theme of the story. The changing hues of art is the theme of the story. Actually, the story is about real persons, like all other stories in Aram. But I changed the personalities a little bit. I changed almost every personalities in the collection. I never narrated the stories as it is. Stories which is very close to reality is only 3 stories. One is Koti, about Pumede Ramaya, and Nuru Narkaliya, and Yanedat. These 3 stories are very close to reality. All other stories are a little bit changed. If you ask me why I changed, I want to say a brilliant observation by N.B. Krishnavarya. He was a great poet and critic in Malayalam. He said, the greatest achievement of Valmiki is giving tails to Hanuman and the Kishkinda people. By giving tails to these persons, he made the story adorable for children. Children loved this story only because these creatures have tails. They love Hanuman because Hanuman has tail. When my son was 5 or 6, his major disappointment was he has no tail. Every time he asks, is there any medicine to have a tail like Hanuman? Without tail, he felt very, very depressed. So it's a huge imagination. He wrote an epic about a hero. Kalidasa narrated, or Kalidasa said about Valmiki that Rudidanusari, follower of the tears. Actually, he narrated the tears of Sita in Ramayana. But he made an adjustment with these tales. So the story was actually it was very popular. It is still very popular among the children. Then they grow up, they used to rediscover the story again. So similarly, in Aram Stories, I changed the personalities and stories a little bit to add drama and to add some poetic element. To add drama and poetic analogy, I changed the personalities in my peacock story. So I cannot say the names now because I changed it. But all the major characters are real. One character is personally known to me and he narrated the real story to me. So it says about the content of art. See, life has a lot of miserable elements, depression, sorrows, failures, and sometimes great delusions and all that in life. Art is actually talking about life, and you can see all kind of sorrows and darkness in art also. The major question is why humanity is preserving art. Because art is full of unhappiness. Art is narrating about the violence and sorrows of human beings. In Kamba Ramayana, more than 50% of the epic is given to Yuddha Kanda, about war. In original Mahabharata, major portion is given to war. In original Iliad and Odyssey, a lot of portions are about war. So why humanity is preserving art? Because the pain and the darkness in the art is not pain or darkness. Somewhere it is changed into something else. That's why you are enjoying it. Nobody will enjoy a pain, but naturally people are enjoying the pain in art because it's not pain. It has something else. Mailkarth is talking about that change. You are witnessing a peacock. Suddenly it moves its head. The entire hue changed. That change is happening in their story.
We will move on to the other story. Churning Curd. It talks about Professor Jespadam, who apparently practices Christianity and who is in love with lifelong love with Kamba Ramayanam. So, what is the uniqueness of Kamba Ramayanam in Indian literature?
Professor Jesdasan lived here near Pulipunam, which is very close here. Is my friend Veda Sahaya Kumar and Rajamartandan. Both are his students. And Rajamartandan is the hero of this story. He was a great critic and literary historian in Telugu. He worked in Dinamani and he died a few years back in a minor accident. He had a severe drinking habit. But Rajamartandan was a divine personality. Such a saintly person. Even now I remember his face and smile and his touch. The major question is, generally, good persons easily become alcoholics. We cannot answer that question. Why? That's not happening. Calculative persons never be alcoholic. They can control their mind and body. But emotional people, good persons, cannot control it. That's why my father told me that I should never touch liquor in my life. So I never literally touch a bottle. And because my father told me that never touch it. So I never touch. I never hold a bottle in my hand. Okay. Professor Jesdasan used to say that only two books are enough for a human being. Bible is the sweet of soul, and Kamba Ramayanam is the nectar of life. So he lived in both texts simultaneously. So what is the role of Kamba Ramayanam? I can say this like this. We had already a great classical tradition in Tamil. We can say that ancient classicism has two qualities in it. One is realism, and the second one is controlled expression. These are the characteristic features of ancient classicism. You can see it in Valmiki Ramayana and Vyasa Bharata also. They narrate things in a realistic way. The expressions and the emotions are actually very controlled by the artist. So they never emphasize the values too much. They never create characters in a high level icons. So after Chilapadiharam, the realistic classics, I mean the ancient classics, came to a pinnacle. After Chilapadiharam and Manimekalai, nothing to do more in that area. So after a few hundred years, Kamba Ramayana emerged. Kamba Ramayana, it's a new epic, or classic epic, you can say. A new classic. In this new classic, Kamban has absolutely no control over his emotions. Absolutely, there is no realism in narration. For example, one of Kamban's character is entering into the scene by the thumping noise of his foot. Elephants are jumping away like small pebbles. He's so big. That's the narration. So the narration is highly romantic and highly exaggerated. The characters are highly exaggerated. Similarly, the emotions are highly exaggerated. But that exaggeration is not a false thing. He exaggerates it to emphasize some values. So even now, the Tamil culture is designed by Kamba Ramayana. Almost in every common discussion, Kamba Ramayana reference naturally emerges. So, for example, a woman used to say, "See, I am a Sita." If a man is referred as, he won't do that, he is a Rama. The brotherhood is expressed as, he is like Rama Lakshmanas. These characters are not Valmiki's characters created by Kamba. So there is a dramatic height of moments throughout Kamba Ramayana. Dramatic height. That can be explained in detail if we are discussing about classic literature. For example, when Guha meets Kama, Guha offering food and everything, and he offering his help, and he says, "I will die for you." And he says, somebody may ask, why this simple hunter not give his life for this Rama? That's why I am offering my life. At that time, Rama says, "You are my brother, not my servant, not my friend. You are my brother. You are the son of Dasaratha." When Sugriva became Rama's brother, and Vibhishana became Rama's father. And there was a line, there's a popular point. Rama says, when Guha became my brother, we become 5. Then Vibhishana became my brother and we become 6. And when you become my brother, 7. And your father is now become a great father with 7 children. Not my father, your father. That's a line. Puganodum Aivaran, Pindu Unduchulvan, Mahanodum Aruvaran. That's the line. With Guga, you were 5. And with Sugriva, you are 6. With you, we are 7. Now your father become the son of 7 children. That's the line. That makes a kind of goosebumps to us. So this value is not common in Tamil Nadu. So even now Tamil Nadu is a casteist state. So what it will be in future is a very great question. Naturally, what it was at Kamban's period. Naturally, at that Kamban's period, there was slavery in Tamil Nadu. The period of Chola Empire, there was slavery. A lot of documents there was slavery in Tamil Nadu. There are a lot of casteist problems at that time. And even while Kamban was living, the great caste clashes was happened at that time. You may heard about that. Valangai, Idangai, left hand caste and right hand caste. There's a very big clash between left hand class and right hand class at that time. But Kamban writes like this. One is Veda, means hunter, and another one is a monkey, and another one is a Rakshasa. And he says, you 3 are my brothers. And Dasaratha now has 7 children. And he is creating a higher value. And it's a dream. Kambarama is filled with dreams, great ideas, great dreams. Even now the Tamil Nadu people and the entire Tamil culture is striving to reach that goal, that ideals. That's why Kambarama is very important to us.
In Tayar Padam, that is Penance of the Goddess and Peacock Blues, you have classical music as the backdrop of these stories. So, what is your connection with the music?
The major talent of a creative writer is he has to write in detail about things which he knew a little. So I need a drop of curd to make my milk as curd. So I am not a master in music, but I used to listen Carnatic music. My wife belongs to Tanjore, and Tanjore is the land of Carnatic music. So I started listening music at the age of 31 after marrying my wife. Actually, we bought a Philips tape recorder after our marriage. And I began to listen Maharajapuram Sandan. And from that period till now, I'm continuously listening music. And nowadays, I used to listen a lot of Hindustani music. But I never spent too much time in listening music because music is good, but for an intellectual or a writer, it gives you laziness and it gives you a kind of rupture in your mind. You spend your emotional energy in listening music. You are not idle while you are listening music. You are spending your emotional energy on it. After listening 3 or 4 hours serious music and spending your emotional energy, you cannot write an emotional story. See, I'm listening an incident. I have an emotional rupture, and I'm coming to my home. And if I am listening music for 1 hour, I will spend the entire emotionality in it. I cannot write it as a short story. So I used to listen music only to reduce my emotional upheavals after writing. While writing some serious text, I cannot sleep at the night. That emotion will continue. Then I will listen some music to subdue my upheavals. That's the music role in my life. So I won't claim myself as a late listener of music.
In Meal Tally, there is one beautiful incident. Ketal Saab, when he gets into trouble, there is a character called Anandan Nair, who is a trustee of a temple. These two belong to different faiths. He comes and helps him when Ketal Saab, somebody wants to attack Ketal Saab. Do you think such harmony exists between people of different faiths in today's India?
I don't know about other places, but in Kerala, it is still a reality. You can see a very different thing in Kerala. Take any gang of youngsters sitting and having a chat in a tea shop. Any gang, few persons naturally will be Muslims, but not in Tamil Nadu. In Tamil Nadu, very rarely you can see a Muslim in a general gathering. People used to say that we respect Muslims and Muslims are my brothers and sisters and everything. And here the Dravidian ideology is always kind of lip service to Muslims. But you cannot find a Muslim in a bunch of youngsters in Tamil Nadu. But I worked in Malabar, I mean in Kannur and Kasaragod for 5 years. And I have a lot of Muslim friends even now. And even in any friends gathering, there will be a Muslim. In Kerala, nobody will have to buy a religious statement. Anything can be said about it. If you are friends, you can tease Muhammad Nabi. You can tease Allah. No Muslim will be offended. That's the culture of Kerala. And nowadays, there are a lot of religious outfits are trying hard to ruin the unity in Kerala. And it may happen anytime. But till that friendship is there. And one thing, I wrote an article in recently I wrote an article somewhere in English. Fundamentalism and traditionalism are two different things. Fundamentalist, a Muslim fundamentalist cannot coexist with a Hindu fundamentalist. But a Muslim traditionalist can naturally be a close friend of a Hindu traditionalist. My father was a traditionalist. He had a very strong belief in caste system, and it's a natural casteist old timer. But he has very close friends among Muslims. They used to visit him every week, and they used to tease each other. Muslims used to tease my father for his casteness and everything. And my father used to tease them. And they are very close friends. Similarly, my brother, he is not a modern man, but he has very good Muslim friends. They have no problem with each other. But fundamentalism is entirely different. Actually, fundamentalism is a new phenomenon imported from the West. The Europe created fundamentalism at 17th century and 18th century. And fundamentalism came from Europe to India through Hitler. They are actually, every fundamentalist is actually imitating Hitler. Even the Islamist fundamentalists are actually imitating Hitler. Fundamentalists are entirely different. Generally, the fundamentalists are learned people, educated people. And their primary goal is not religion or salvation. Their primary goal is power and money. They are using religion or language or caste or ethnicity or regional sentiments to gain power. That's an entirely different thing. A fundamentalist is a person who is made up of pure hatred only. He can never defend himself. If you ask him who you are, he used to say others. He first defined other. Then through that definition, he is defining himself. I said, but a traditionalist can easily define himself. A traditionalist would say, yes, I believe this religion, I believe this God, I am this person, I used to behave this like this, I used to do all these rituals. That's why I'm here. That's the definition. So, traditionalism is not so bad. Traditionalism is an old thing, but still it is not so violent. Fundamentalism is totally dangerous. Fundamentalism cannot be positive. Essentially it is negative. So it cannot be positive. And in fundamentalism, there could not be any good element in it. It's a pure power-hungry force.
So now I have come to the final question. Appropriately, it is about your story, the last story in the collection, One World. The way you wrote the story is, the style of the writing is different from the other stories. You wrote it as if it's like a small biography of a great personality.
Gary Davis was a disciple of Natarajan, and he was a disciple of Nitya Chaitanya Edi also. He used to visit Uti Nitya Gurukula many times, once in a while. Once I saw a lot of notes written by Gary Davis. I think the notes are still available in Uti Gurukula. He wrote about his travel and all that. It's a typed version. And I asked about him to Nitya, and Nitya began to laugh at about Gary Davis. Gary Davis has a lot of eccentricities. After the discussion, while I am coming out, one of the students of Nitya told me about Gary Davis. So he is the narrator of the story. The student is the narrator of the story. He said about the character of Gary Davis. The first thing is, Ooty is full of water everywhere. So there is no water scarcity in Ooty. It used to rain almost every day in Ooty. But Gary Davis used only one bucket of water to wash and bath. Because you should not waste water. So it is his policy. And he taught this student, this sannyasi, how to use water in a limited way, how to wash your clothes and your body with one bucket of water. That was a very curious thing. And he said a lot of funny things about Gary Davis. The way he behaves, the eccentricity. You know, Gary Davis contested in American president election in his old age. He contested in American president election in his old ages, and he miserably failed. But he won't care about it. So that's the thing interested me. And Gary Davis is a tall person. And this student of Nityan told me that Gary Days was jailed in Congo. The room was very small room. So Gary Davis cannot sleep in that room. He has to bend his body to sleep. So more than 1.5 years, he bent his body to sleep in the room. That was a funny thing. I imagined a person who imagined a world without walls is now actually in a small room. That's the theme inspired me to write that story. Ulagam Yavai. 2 titles of the stories in Aram collection are taken from Kamba. One is Maturudai, is a Kamban's expression. Kamban imagined a troubled mind as a chant curve. And Ulagam Yavai is the first line of Kamba Ramayana. First line of Kamba Ramayana.